you. Happy weekend to all of you. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, greeting you a pleasant day, although it's slightly overcast and there are chances of rain today. Pero okay na po yan, basta malamig at kalma. Happy weekend to all of you. Thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV, for being viewers of One News PH, and watching us here on Channels 8, or kung medyo saucy ang TV ninyo, Channel 250. And today is July 8, 2022. It's a Friday, so ingat-ingat po. Huwag masyadong nagmamadali sa kalye, madulas. And let's move on with the program. For our daily starter, it is from author Paulo Coelho. Okay? Paulo Coelho, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. Ulitin ko po, okay? Maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. Medyo malalim, no? Medyo kakaiba. But the suggestion of the author is that we busy ourselves, we focus so much on the journey. What is the meaning of life? Who am I supposed to become? Am I supposed to become an expert, a scientist, a celebrity, president, prime minister, etc.? But he is suggesting, baka naman, because life is a series of journeys from your birth to your death. It may be that at this point in your life, especially if you're in midlife, yung mga sinasabing midlife crisis, if you're having midlife crisis, perhaps your journey is to get rid of all the things who you are not. Okay? I remember a time when people said to me, oh, we want you to be this, we want you to do your job this way, to be recognized this way, etc. But then I realized if I follow them, carry on with that direction, I will have no friends and lots of enemies. So ultimately, I chose a different path. I unlearned all of that, and I found my own way and tried my best to get back to who I'm supposed to be. So maybe you can spend the weekend trying to do that, trying to figure out, okay, sino ba ako? And am I the person that I believe I was supposed to be, or have I listened to the whispers and shouts and suggestions of the world and not of God? Okay, so let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And today, July 8, 2022, the headline, Marcos reorganizes Office of the President. May mga pagbabago po. President Bongbong Marcos has scrapped the office of the Cabinet Secretary, and also renamed the PCE, Presidential Communications Office, and reverted it back to Office of the Press Secretary. He also scrapped the Presidential Anti-Corruption Office, and yun na po, no? At the top of the front page, bill seeking to suspend fuel tax refiled in the Senate. And below that to the left is a photo of President Marcos posing with the new MTRCB Chairman Giorella Maria Lala Soto Antonio and her daughter Helena following an oath-taking ceremony at Malacanang yesterday. Yes, Miss Soto or Mrs. Soto is the Mrs. Antonio, Soto Antonio is the daughter of Tito Sen, okay, if I'm not mistaken. In the middle of that above the front page headline, Lorenzana appointed to BCDA and Soto's daughter named MTRCB chief. The right side, right ear of the page, private hospitals ready for surge in COVID cases. Okay, sabi po ni Sir Jose Rene de Grano of the PHAPI, they are ready for any eventual surge of COVID cases, and please do not listen to that as a mere reading of the news. Make that a warning. Okay? There is a spread of COVID once again, so please be careful. Okay. At the lower middle right, BBM meets energy executives. Okay, President Bongbong Marcos has met with the department officials at Malacanang as various sectors call on his administration to mitigate the impact of successive oil price hikes. Ayan po, the newly elected president is now experiencing yung kasabihang naiipit sa nag-uumpugang mga bato because the government needs the taxes and the consumers are feeling hindi na po kurot, hindi na pinch the press, okay? The pressure and the burden. Jobless rate rises to 6%. Peso breaches 56 to 1 level. Ayan po, no? So, we've been there. We know what it's like. We survived. We will see this through. At the middle of the front page, you have this photograph of 3 Highway Patrol Group personnel or officers watching oncoming vehicles along the Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City. Nag-aabang sila, as I suggested in my column, nag-aabang sila ng mga lumalabas na mga siga-siga dyan sa Batasang Pambansa and Points North kasi yung mga gumagamit, people who are illegally using sirens and blinkers in their vehicles. Meanwhile, the European Union states of France, alongside with Malta and Ireland, okay, issued separate recall orders for Lucky Me products coming from Thailand. Ito po, certain batches po which were discovered to contain itong ethylene, ethylene oxide. It is a pesticide and usually po kasi shippers spray their boxes with pesticide para hindi mabukbok, etc. Ayun, nagka-problema sila ngayon sa Ireland, Malta, and France. So there's the problem there. We tried to get the Lucky Me producer or distributor in the Philippines. Medyo pakibasa na lang daw ang kanilang press release. Okay. Meanwhile, the government was urged by UBRA President Bong Insyong to form a task force to address the chicken supply. For those of you who are interested, you can read about our interview with UBRA Chairman Mr. San Diego, where I wrote about it in my column for today in the Philippine Star. Pag-asa says 2 tropical cyclones loom. Okay, next week malamang daw baka may pumasok o mamasyal na mga bagyo sa PAR, Philippine Area of Responsibility, because we are still under the La Nina weather conditions, and so it is expected. Okay. And last but not the least, that photo there is of Canadian Olympic medalist who has decided to swim for the Philippines, namely Kayla Sanchez, who won a silver and bronze for Canada in the swimming relays at the Tokyo Games. Ayun po, nag-decide si Kayla, gusto naman niyang lumangoy para sa Pilipinas. Nawalan tayo ng Japanese-Filipina golfer, Yuka ba yun? And now, we have a Canadian-Filipina swimmer, Yuka Saso. Si Yuka Saso decided she wanted to represent Japan instead of just being Japanese-Filipino. And now, it is Kayla Sanchez choosing to represent the Philippines in swimming para sa 2024 Olympics po yan. Okay, so those are the front page news, and let us now go to our interviews. Okay, there is a passage in the sandali. Sino bang uunahin ko dito? Ang gagaling kasi ng mga guests natin. Okay, first of all, there is a verse, okay? There is a verse where it is said, "Come to me, all those who are heavily burdened, and I will lighten your load." Hindi po sino ba yon, yung singer? Hindi yung singer ang sumulat doon, nasa Bible po yan. However, now, we have a senator who wants to lighten the load of K-12 students. Let's get to know this senator who is a regular here on Agenda.
After making it to the Senate's Magic 12 in 2016, Senator Gatchalian recently won his re-election bid in the 2022 elections. He is also expected to return as the committee chairman on basic education. Prior to being a senator, Gatchalian was 1st District Representative of Valenzuela. He also served as mayor of the city. He finished his degree in Finance and Operations Management in Boston University.
Okay, there we go. Good morning, Mr. Senator. Kamusta na po tayo?
Good morning, Cito. Good morning to our televiewers. Magandang umaga.
Okay, and sabi ko nga, para kang hindi ka si Basil Valdez, pero hindi ka naman si Jesus Christ, but you want to lighten the load of our K-12 students. I actually read that news article where you were quoted as saying, there's just too much. We need to declutter or to lessen the volume of subjects being taught in K-12. Was that a correct report?
Well, it's measured as competencies, Cito. And just to give you an example, in one grade level, a student is expected to learn about 1,200 plus competencies. So if you divide a school year by 200, kasi every day, 200 days ang school year natin, we're talking about 5 competencies a day. Just to give you a comparison, in Singapore, the competencies that they're learning is only a quarter of what we're learning. Parang lumalabas, just to keep it simple, lumalabas 1 competency per day. And the principle of Singapore is they give the students time to learn and time to play. So it's not just purely studying. It's also absorbing the competencies, absorbing the lessons, and also having time for extracurricular activities. But in our particular case, the experts are saying, and also based on our analysis, our students are being bombarded with a lot of things to learn that they end up learning nothing. And that's what we're seeing right now. That's why our PISA scores are low. Our national achievement test scores are low because evidence is saying that they're not learning. Basically because they have so many things to learn.
Okay, now has there been, because you mentioned the word analysis, and that was supposed to be my first question for you, has there been an official or a formal study conducted to determine the effectivity of K-12, or what is the good, the bad, or the ugly about it?
Okay. There's no formal analysis on K-12 yet. That's why my second bill actually that I filed is to call on the review of the K-12 system. Ever since K-12 was implemented, there's no honest to goodness analysis that was conducted. There were a hodgepodge of analysis, but there's no holistic study whether K-12 is actually effective and the promises of K-12 are being met. There are experts in curriculum, and these experts are saying that, again, we're teaching our students too much. In fact, DepEd recognized that. That's why during the pandemic, they reduced the number of competencies by 60%. But even at 60%, a lot of the experts are saying it's still too much. We still have to simplify it.
Okay, could you, and I hope I'm not putting you in the spot, Senator, but maybe you might have the answers. What would be the correct program? Because you were quoted as saying that we need to make K-12 graduates employable, preferably quality employment.
Yeah.
What should be in the K-12? What would it look like if it were crafted by Senator Win Gatchalian?
Cito, I'll keep it this simple, and not technical. There are two important things that we need to focus on. Number one are the basics for K-3, meaning mathematics and reading. Our students, especially by the time they reach 10 years old, they're not learning, they're not reading, and it's very difficult for them to read. And reading is such a fundamental skill that they need to master before they can move up to the next grade level. And based on the World Bank study, maraming study, World Bank, PISA, our 10 years old students are not reading. Their comprehension is not up to par, and they don't know how to read. Second is, at the end of the day, Cito, we want employable graduates, and that's the promise of K-12. And right now, our graduates are not employable. They lack the technical skills. They lack the fundamental skills, and that's where the problem comes in. That's why even after adding 2 years, our parents are dismayed because that additional 2 years ended up nothing because they cannot be their kids cannot be employed.
Okay, what happened to the K-12 track for technical education? Because a lot of people were betting on that na kahit hindi maging gold medalist sa mathematics ay makakakuha pa rin ng magagandang trabaho because of the technical track.
That's that's an excellent question, Cito. There are 4 tracks. There's academic, there's tech-voc, there's sports and arts. About 30% of our students take up the technical vocational track. And the reason for that is not all students can continue to college because of financial reasons and other reasons. A lot of them want to work now. And the technical vocational track is meant to give them the skills to enable them to find a job. However, there are problems in terms of mismatch, meaning we're not teaching our students what the industry needs, and the skills that we're teaching them is not what the industry has or at par with the industry. So this is actually another issue, because they spend 2 years in tech voc, but the skills that they're learning are not usable when they go to work.
Okay, because I'm reminded of our friend Art Samaniego of the Bulletin. He just recently went to Israel, and he met high school students there whose skill levels were already industry levels here in the Philippines. 15 years old pa lang. But here in the Philippines, 10 years old, hindi pa makabasa, tapos mahina pa sa spelling. And I noticed also that many Filipinos are audio-oriented. Yung sinusulat nila based sa dinig nila, hindi sa basa nila.
Marami tayong dapat pag-isipan Cito, in our country we practice the mother tongue concept, in which from kindergarten to grade 3 they're taught in their mother tongue. For example, you're Ilocano, you're taught in Ilocano. Pero by the time they reach grade 4 or approximately 10 years old, they will be taught in English and tested in English. No? So mother tongue scientifically is a proven concept. However, you have to execute it properly. No? And that affects also the reading of our students in English. So that's a very important question that the Department of Education has to think about, no? Whether to continue with mother tongue, whether the other is to how to improve mother tongue and to make it effective and seamless, the transition from grade 3 to grade 4. And when the grade 4 students are being tested in English, the transition should be seamless.
Okay, but I don't want to throw the ball at the Congress or the blame at Congress, but as I understand it, the Department of Education cannot implement programs such as that in the curriculum unless it is declared or imposed by Congress. Kasi itong mga dual language, there's so many things that were included in the curriculum that were a result of some legislator, some congressman saying, oh, nakita ko ito sa America, or I saw this in South America, we should include this, or for better, we should do this. But how do you propose lightening the load if all of this were, by virtue of law?
Actually, you're absolutely correct. No, if you look at the website of the Senate, there's so many laws mandating to teach students, for example, financial literacy, labor laws, even how to cross the street, pedestrian and traffic laws. Believe it or not, Cito, meron mga ganyan na batas. Ano? And my personal take, when I was a chairman of the Basic Education Committee, my personal take on that is let's leave the curriculum to the Department of Education because this is very dynamic. The curriculum now and the curriculum tomorrow might be different. The world is changing. And to enact laws and to repeal laws takes time. So in terms of curriculum development, let's leave it to DepEd because it's a very dynamic activity. And DepEd needs that flexibility and the responsiveness to adjust to changes in the global situation. So that's why during my term, I never heard of those mandated subjects. Precisely because it will restrict the flexibility of DepEd and restrict the responsiveness of DepEd.
Okay, now we always hear of Filipinos being experts. We have traffic experts. We have experts in topography, geography, etc. But when it comes to like the DepEd, for instance, I've interviewed several people already. I won't name names, but they all tell the same thing. We don't have an actual study, as you pointed out earlier in the interview. Sure. And I'm saying, why is that part of our legislative process na nagbigay lang ng budget proposal, mapondohan na, or legislative agenda, masasubmit na, pero walang research?
Tama ka doon. No? We need to constantly conduct research in various concepts. No? But in this particular case, the overarching concept is K-12. And in the last 3 years that I chaired the Basic Education Committee, I've not come across a holistic study on K-12. No? There are a lot of little studies, but in terms of the holistic study, walang ganon. And that's why I propose to come up with that study, with that research through the oversight powers of Congress, so that we will find out where can we tweak, what areas can we improve on, and how come the promises of K-12 is not being met. Cito, funny, when I was campaigning, one of my campaign promises every time I go on stage is the review of K-12. And ang lakas ng palakpak na kukuha ko doon because people are dismayed with K-12. They don't see the value of K-12. But I don't agree in going back with the 10-year system. No, it's too.
Oh, no, definitely not.
no,
Because
yeah.
I would be the first to say that I already see the difference. Filipino students going abroad to study in foreign universities
Yes, correct.
lose out because they didn't do K to 12, whereas the K to 12 are accepted. And then yung pangang IB, kasi I learned that from my daughter because her program in Victory International School has international baccalaureate program for under the K to 12.
Yeah.
She made it. Her entrance was seamless. But someone else who did not take IB from a very prestigious school here in the Philippines, medyo struggled.
Yeah.
She struggled.
Correct. K to 12 placed us at par with in the international system. No, and you're absolutely correct. It put us there, no, in line with the other international education system. So I don't believe in going back to the 10-year system. However, we need to show and we need to make our families feel the value of K to 12, especially in our public schools. Doon sa mga private schools, I know they see the value. Like what you said, they go up abroad and they immediately get accepted. But with our public schools, they don't see it. Naging dagdag gastos lang para sa kanila, which is not the intention. So we need to tweak it. I have some proposals on how to tweak it, like what I mentioned earlier. But we need a comprehensive study, a holistic and comprehensive study on where we should adjust and tweak K to 12.
Okay, having said that, Senator, will there be a time in the Senate and in Congress or at the budget hearings na pakita nyo muna yung study sa amin, yung science, tapos saka natin pag-uusapan yung budget proposal ninyo? Kasi parang what's happening here is they just keep proposing budgets and then they don't even spend a quarter of that budget, not just for DepEd, no, but for many departments.
I would suggest that the DepEd has a very big research bureau, no? And I would suggest to allocate some funds for that research bureau to study the existing concepts, many concepts, no, mother tongue, K to 12, even what they call the spiral progression concept. No, there's so many embedded concepts in the K to 12 law, and those concepts I hear a lot of disgruntled. No, and we need to study that because conceptually, in theory, it works, but when you execute it on the ground, it's a different story because our teachers are not prepared, our principals are not prepared, we don't have enough materials. May mga ganitong complications that created problems on the ground when you execute these concepts.
Okay, well, we're into our last few minutes and then I will be interviewing the Highway Patrol Group. But before we let you go, Senator, pwede bang pag-usapan natin yung ROTC quickly? Because I interviewed Senator Bato de la Rosa and he was very transparent. He was very open in suggestions. But there is a lingering impression that if the ROTC is revived or restored by law, the plan or the outcome might be just getting the old program from the shelf and putting it back on the ground. Kumbaga, walang study, walang innovation, walang improvement.
That's a timely question, Cito. I filed my own version of ROTC. I'm a product of ROTC during our days, Cito. And I see the value of ROTC. Two important positive outcomes of ROTC. Number one is discipline. It trains our students the value of discipline. And then number two, additional skills. We all have to realize that our country is so vulnerable to calamities. No? We're the second in terms of vulnerability. And ROTC can be a tool to give them other skills for disaster response. No? For example, first aid. No? Our students don't know how to conduct first aid. Kung merong na heart attack, they don't know how to respond. No?
True.
So simple things like this will enable our students to respond to the times.
And many Filipinos, may I add, Senator, hindi marunong lumangoy. Even
Simple.
in
And
the
then we're
military.
an archipelagic country, Cito. No, we have one of the longest coastlines in the world.
Exactly. So anyway, will you also ako na ako sa ating next guest kailangan pa nilang magpatrol. Okay, but my last question is, are you open to introducing the concept where the teachers of ROTC must be organic mentors of the university or the college or the high school they're in, and that it be multi-service opportunities, meaning hindi lang puro Philippine Army, meron ding Philippine Navy, Philippine Coast Guard, Air Force, etc. Because that also makes available the potential of Filipinos aspiring to be members of the Air Force.
That's a very good suggestion, Cito. In fact, just to answer your earlier question, we're not bringing back the old ROTC. We're bringing back a much improved, much efficient ROTC, taking into consideration also the K-12 and taking into consideration also the academic requirements. So it's not purely just ROTC and forgetting academic. It will be seamless. It will be harmonious with our existing academic system right now. So we will take into consideration the requirements of the academic side so that harmonious yung ROTC and harmonious yung academic requirements.
Okay, well, thank you very much again,
you.
Senator Win Gatchalian, and I'm sure we are going to have very interesting events or developments in the coming months as we plod through K-12 and ROTC. Maraming salamat and God bless you as always.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Senator Win Gatchalian. We will go for a quick break, and when we return, we will come back with Police Brigadier General Rommel Marbil. Okay, kakaibang pangalan to. Kailangan ko ma-interview ang personality ni Brigadier General. I love our unusual names. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back again to Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And today we are blessed to have managed to get an invitation, and believe naman po ako, nagpapasalamat kami because even though our invitation was last minute, the Highway Patrol Group were very nice enough to accommodate our request. And with us, joining us is the director himself. Hindi lang spokesman, ano? Director pa ng PNP Highway Patrol Group, Police Brigadier General Rommel Marbil. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning po sa inyo. That's mga viewers po. Magandang umaga po.
Okay, well, allow me to express my appreciation, General, because malaking bagay sa amin na rumiresponde ang ating kapulisan. Hindi lang sa lansangan, kung hindi pati dito sa media. Don't worry, kakampin nyo kami. Okay. Anyway, sir, congratulations kasi wala pang isang linggo your patrol, your officers are seen on the roads nang huhuli na nitong mga blinker and wang-wang illegal users. Could you give us an update, General?
Actually, sir, to give an update, talagang continuous na po yung effort namin na ipagbawal po ipagamit ang mga blinkers and sirens natin.
Mhm.
Hindi naman po talaga naghihumihinto. Nagkaroon lang po tayo ng awareness because of our good senator na sabi niya lumalaki. And true naman po, meron po talagang cases talaga na maraming gumagamit. Ang
Mhm.
paggamit po nito is actually mga iba po tayo sinasabi nga nila yung mga convoys na may mga blinkers and sirens. Ito po rin yung talagang tinatanggal po natin.
Mhm. Okay, now kamusta naman po kasi na-dyaryo na naman yung tropa ninyo. Front page pa, center spread pa ng Philippine Star. Talagang astig ang dating.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you po. Actually nga, nagpapasalamat po kami kasi nagkaroon po ng awareness na yung mga tao po, yung mga nahuhuli namin, every time na nahuhuli namin sila, hindi nila alam eh. And nagugulat rin kami. And sabi nga nila, hindi naman po kami nakakahuli ng mga police or military na gumagamit ng blinkers. It's an ordinary civilian na gusto lang po nila talagang makaisa dun sa traffic natin, dun sa makauna o masabi mo nang may power sila na dumaan. Yun po talaga ang nangyayari po.
Okay, paano and I suppose this is a reality, no? Kasi paminsan-minsan makakaengkwentro kayo ng opisyal. Paano nangyayari sa ganon? Pag sir, alam naming senador kayo, alam naming congressman kayo, pero si presidente lang at saka si vice president lang ang pinapayagan niya kahit na 4-star general pa kayo, bawal yan. How do you manage that tricky situation?
Actually, sir, may mga talaga, that's really true po, may mga nahuhuli po kami mga ganyan mga bagay. Yung iba po talagang, they know na bawal naman po. But minsan, to be honest with you, may mga ibang tumatawag po sa atin na, sir, nahuli po kami. And one thing I will say to them, sir, tama po yung huli ng pulis natin and we have to respect them. Next time, di nahuhuli yan, hihingi lang po kayo ng pera niyan, wala na silang gagawin. Wala namang pagkakamali. So, it's really for the respect po ng batas po natin, respeto po dun sa mga humuhuli po sa atin. So, yun, naiintindihan po naman nila.
Well, yeah, because I remember, I know of a situation sa Baguio, yung Baguio City, merong retired general na huli sa coding, yung sasakyan, pagkatapos, believe ako doon sa enforcer. Walang tinag. Tapos nag-apologize pa yung official. Sabi, hindi kayo mag-apologize. Ginawa no tao nyo, tama eh. Walang general. But in any case, our situation right now, ano po bang dapat nating gawin? What has to be done for everybody to realize? Kasi na-educate naman natin, kasama kayo, yung sa pagbibigay, giving room to ambulances. Dati, galit tayong lahat doon sa mga ambulansya kasi alam na marami pretending eh. Pero ngayon, nire-respeto na yung ambulansya. Pag may ambulansya, tabi. Walang pakialam. Tabi, papadaanin o fire truck. What can be done for people to really stop abusing these blinkers? Kasi ikaw ba yung pumunta sa Banawe o tao mo yung pumunta sa Banawe na inisa-isa yung mga tindahan doon at sinabihan, ba't kayo nagbebenta niyan?
Opo, talagang pinagsasabihin po namin yung mga nagbebenta po natin na itigil po. Wala po kasi sa batas natin na pinagbabawal po yung pagbebenta ng mga blinkers and sirens natin. Ang bawal lang po talaga sa batas natin yung pagkapit po, yung paglalagay po ng blinkers and sirens sa mga sakyan. Pagbebenta po, wala po dun sa batas natin. Doon sa paano po natin may stop, kahapon po I made a call to the outgoing LTO Chief, General Galbante, so to coordinate with them regarding po doon sa mga crackdowns natin, mga sirens and blinkers, illegal sirens po. Kasi mga iba talaga hindi po nila talaga alam eh. Under the Provincial Decree 96, ang authorized po doon sa batas po natin yung NBI, LTO, police,
yung law enforcement.
AFP. Hindi po. Binago po ng Republic Act Article 4136 na ito specific na po authorized.
Okay.
Authorized lang po na ambulances,
okay,
fire trucks, and police marked vehicles lang po ang pwedeng gumamit ang blinkers and sirens. Wala na pong exemption dyan.
Ayun. So kahit na sabihin natin, kasi ako tumutulong din ako sa LTO. Sorry na lang kasi ngayon lang kita nakilala, hindi ako masyadong makatulong sa HPG. Ano? Pero I've been helping LTO promote their agenda, so to speak. Paano kung law enforcement unit ng LTO o LTFRB basta na may pangalan, are they allowed or hindi rin?
Sir, they are not authorized to put sirens and
Patay.
beacons po. You have to educate them po. May kahapon nga, may nahuli po kaming MMDA. You have to remove your blinker kasi hindi po nasa authorized sa batas natin ng bago pong batas po ng Republic Act 4136 po. Very specific po to.
Because the blinkers and sirens are intended primarily for emergency.
Yes po, pang-emergency lang po yan.
Yan. So hindi yan dahil ikaw ay law enforcement group ng LTO or LTFRB or MMDA, hindi sila pwedeng maggamit ng blinker at siren.
Opo, sir. Opo.
Okay. May we suggest, General, kung magtulungan na tayong dalawa sa ikabubuti, kausapin na natin ng DTI para sila na, at saka Bureau of Customs, para sila na mag-issue ng memorandum na bawal na yung importation na yan unless with a permit. Kasi ako, kung mag-import ako ng baboy o manok, kailangan ko ng permit, di po ba? Dapat siguro ganun din para sa mga sirens and blinkers.
Sir, actually, it's a big help for us na pag talaga i-regulate po yung paggamit po, pagbebenta po ng siren and blinkers natin. No? Kasi talaga yung mga tao, ito sir, to be nakakatawa nga yung mga tao natin pagka nakakahuli po kami sa probinsya at gumagamit po niyan. Sir, hinuhuli niyo po kami. Bakit niyo po nagbebenta, hindi po niyo hinuhuli? Sabi ko, sir, yung paggamit po talaga ng blinker at pagkabit po niya, yung pinagbabawal. Pero yung pagbebenta po, wala po pa sa batas natin. But tama po yung sinasabi nyo, we will let our lawmakers do, ilagay po sa batas natin na ipagbawal na rin po yan.
Oo, kasi kayo rin naman ang napeperwisyo pag may gumamit na bigatin or someone who is abusing his authority, lalo na yung mga local political powers dyan, ang nakalagay sa isang paa sa hukay, tao rin ninyo, di po ba?
Opo nga sir, yun po yung nagiging problema po natin. But of course, yung High Patrol naman po, naman po kami na we inform them na ito po talaga yung batas natin. Alam mo talaga, ito po yung nagiging conflict. It's a power of ego po na hindi.
Yeah.
We are very powerful. And ang bababait naman po yung mga polis namin, sir, talagang bawal po talaga yan. Minsan nakikiusap po talaga kami na sir, o kaya may tumatawag sa akin. Ang sinasabi ko lang po sa kanila, tama po yung huli ng pulis natin. Let us respect them. Let us respect the law. Para sa atin naman po yan.
Okay. General Marbil, ano ang magiging kalabasan ng mga na-confiscate na sirens and blinkers? Kasi may mga suggestion, dapat daw on the spot, sagasaan na ng patrol car ninyo para hindi na ma-recycle. Ano po ba ang provision of law?
Sir, hindi po pwedeng gawin natin yon because that's an evidence. No? Under PD 96, yung first offense po natin, you have to get your receipt, confiscation lang. And second is yung pagka nahuli po natin, sa pangalawa ho, ang ginagawa po natin is possible filing of the court. Ito po mga nahuhuli po natin, mga blinkers and sirens po, is evidence in court po. Under Republic Act 4136 po, although ini-issuean po natin ng ticket yan, yung illegal and authorized installation of blinkers, kasama po sa ebidensya po yan.
Okay. So, pero ultimately, what happens to all of those confiscated goods? Kasi alam ko, lahat naman ng highway patrol at police, may mga sirens, may mga blinkers. Pati nga yung highway patrol, puro astig. Alam ko, naka-BMW yung mga bataan ninyo.
Sir, actually, sir, talaga po yan. But meron po kami ditong storage for all our evidences. In the future po, baka gamitin po namin for filing of the court. Kasi
but they're not destroyed within parang di ba sa drugs after 6 months ba yun? Pag na-present na sa court, pwede nang i-destroy yung evidence?
Actually, sir, that's kasi nagamit na po dun sa court eh. Sa amin po yung second offense nyo po eh. So yun po inaabangan po natin. Kasi yung first offense nyo, that's an evidence for you. Second po, dapat we need to put it in court. Ang tama po yung sinasabi sa drugs, nagamit na pong ebidensya. And after ng evidence, and the court will, ang court na po magsasabi na pwede na pong sirain. Kami po, we are waiting for the court before we destroy yung mga ebidensya po. It's an evidence po, so we are not authorized to destroy any evidence po unless sinabi po ng korte po.
Okay, now, merong nagpaabot ng mensahe. Ang concern naman nila, kasi noon daw na ginagawa ito, nagkaroon kayo ng isang reactivated or ewan ko paano, campaign, pati daw yung hindi kasama sa PD, yung sa on blinkers and sirens, dinadamay katulad yung mga fog lights or mga roof rack na ginagamit ng mga, kasi alam mo naman ngayon na general, usong-uso na yun, nagka-camping, yung mga natutulog sa ibabaw ng sasakyan nila or off-road. Noon daw nadamay pati yung mga hindi naman kasama sa PD, and this is from a lawyer.
Sir, hindi na po namin sinasama yan, no? Hindi naman po talaga yan ang maghanap ng mga pagkakamali ng mga tao natin eh. Hindi po ang ganang high patrol, hindi naman po ganito yung police. Ang ginagawa po natin, when we see fog lights po, we are very specific po na ang nasa batas po natin, yung LED po ng dun sa isang ilaw is hindi po pwedeng sumobra ng 6. And dapat
6 na ilaw.
6 na ilaw po dun sa isa ganun, 6 LED lights po. Yun lang po talagang inuhuli namin, but more than that. Dapat ang ilaw po, no, it should be nandun po sa ibaba. Yun po hindi nakikita ng mga tao natin eh. Nakataas kasi. And yun po yung pinagbabawal natin, yung nakakasilaw.
Paano kung yung nakalagay doon sa roof rack pero yung may cover ba? Wala akong wala akong SUV, wala akong mga ganyan pero yun yung debate nila eh. Naka-off naman, nakasara naman. Bakit nila pinapakialaman?
Sir, actually sir, nakikita mo po namin talaga na bawal. And we kung naka-cover po and talagang we give yung talagang sige, hindi namin huli yan. Pero yung nakikita naman, very visible po sa bata namin, pinapahuli po namin.
Dapat lang. Kasi kahapon may nasundan ako na Fortuner eh. Hindi ko maintindihan eh. Yung etiketa ba na Fortuner, hindi original. Naka-LED, tapos bumiblinker pa. Sabi ko, nako kung ako deputized ng HPG, yari ito sa akin. Hindi ko talaga pauuwiin ito.
Actually, sir, yan, tama po kayo, no? Marami pong kalalilat pwede yan eh. In fact, kung napansin nyo po yung signal light po dati, yung stoplight natin, dapat isa lang po yung ilaw na yan. Pagka nagbiblink po yan, bawal rin po yan.
Yung multi-blinking.
Hindi po alam ng mga tao yan.
Okay. Kayo ba, nakipag-meeting na ba kayo doon sa mga association and sa DTI para matigil na yan? Kasi at the end of the day, kayo na naman ang pupunahin dyan. You're going to be criticized for doing your job, which is really insane. Ginagawa nyo na yung trabaho, galit pa sa inyo.
Sir, ang ginawa po natin, meron na po kaming legislative affairs dito. We make a letter addressed to our legislative affairs po dun sa PNP para masama po dun sa mga batas na paisusulong po ng PNP po. Na ito po yung dapat ma-regulate po. Although sasabi nga nila na we go to DTI and stop ipagbawal po yan, wala po sa batas po natin kasi. It will be parang sabi nito sa gray area po na ipagbawal po natin na wala sa batas. Sabi ko nga,
okay. So, sorry, General, do you have enough personnel to do this? Kasi alam ko kasi nagkipagtulungan ako noon kay Director Chuck Ginto ng LTO. Sabi niya, Cito, parang naghahanap kami ng parusa sa sarili, yung HPG, LTO, yung manghuli lang ng mga overloaded, overextended na mga truck sa expressway, inaabot daw kayo ng hanggang 3:00 para manghuli. Meron ba, how many HPG personnel are there? Do we have enough personnel to do all of this?
Yes, sir. Sir, hindi lang po HPG ang tumutulong dun sa mga problema po to, no? The whole
Mhm.
PNP po, meron po kaming gumagawa po niyan kasi sabi nila only HPG, no. It's not only HPG, marami pong tumutulong sa amin yung MMDA, yung LTO po, traffic enforcers po ng mga local units at sa mga police po namin sa local.
So
We're helping each other po.
pwede rin silang manghuli ng mga wang-wang blinker at saka yung mga nagpla-flasher na signal light at mga emblems.
Yes, sir. Dito po, hindi naman po lang kami ang nadi-deputize ng LTO.
Aha.
Kasama po yung mga local units natin, yung mga traffic enforcers po natin, deputize po sila na humuli po nito.
Okay, so wag po tayong papalag pag kayo pinara dahil may blinker, sirena kayo, etc. Now, maiba lang ako ng topic general if you would, yung tungkol dito sa mga tinted. Kasi galing pa lang ako sa Ilocos at nakasakay ako ng van. And napansin ko maraming van, they do good service, mababait sila, pero maraming van na bumabiyahe, talagang sobra yung tint, hindi mo na makita yung scenery. Sabi ko, naturingan pa kayo, you present yourselves as tourist vans, but the tourists cannot see anything and the law enforcer cannot see inside the vehicle. Ano ba ang situation natin dyan? Alam ko matagal ng debate yan. Baka controversial pa. Pero natatakot ako para sa mga aksidente ba? Kasi alam mo, pag fully tinted o blackout ang tint nitong mga van at na-involve sa aksidente, hindi mo alam kung saan ka mag-uumpisa, sa harapan o sa likod.
Kasi bawal naman po talaga yung heavy tint. Pinagbabawal po dun sa bagong batas natin sa Republic Act 4136. Yung heavy tint po. Hindi po talaga kala kasi ng tao na pwede sila maglagay. Hindi po talaga yan. Nahihirapan na po kami because we don't have any measurement to yung sa crackdown ng mga tints po. Pero pagka nakita po natin, pagka na dun sa initial violation po na nakikita natin na hindi natin makita yung mga tao, hinuhuli po natin yan. Yung iba kasi talaga hindi nila alam eh. And let us remind them po, talagang heavy tints, bawal po sa batas po natin yan.
Okay, tsaka kung papanay-panayin nyo naman, ika nga of course, mapeperwisyo kayo for the first month, pero kung papanay-panayin nyo yan, palagay ko magtatanda yung ating mga kababayan, they will finally realize it's not worth the hassle. Okay, now, I wrote a column last middle of this week tungkol nga dito sa problema natin sa blinkers. Nabanggit ko na rin and I think we showed a video earlier. Yung bang mga feeling US State Department sila na may mga backup, meron yatang nahuli yung tropa ninyo no yesterday yata yun, nahuli nakatint, nakablinker, tumakas, yung pala hindi pa nare-rehistro since 2017, etc. etc. Tapos sablay pa yung documents ng sasakyan. What is our situation regarding itong mga security backups, etc.?
Sir, ito po talagang nagiging problema po natin. Marami po talagang gumagawa po ng mga motorcycle units sila. Kala po nila to tama. Ang ginawa po natin, we inform our Directorate for Operations, si General De Leon, to communicate with other government agencies na bawal po yan. Only HPG po, uulitin ko po, HPG personnel in this kind of uniform na suit ko po ngayon, and HPG motorcycles po ang pwede po magbigay ng traffic assistance, and PSPG na same with our uniform, and PSG, tatlo lang po ang pwede. Yung iba po, kung napapansin nyo, may mga kanya-kanya mga motorcycle units, bawal po yan. I-report nyo po sa amin yan and we will arrest them po. Napapansin ko rin po talaga kung kagaya po niyan, kanina nakita nyo, bawal po yan, hindi po sila authorized. Yung isang nagbibigay po ng mga traffic, motorcycle escorts, bawal po yan. Yung po yung nakikita natin, yung hindi ko lang po mga ibang government agency, may napansin ko iba-ibang uniform nila. Please report to us and we will make the necessary correction po. We already communicated through our Directorate for Operations to all government agencies to stop and refrain po establishing yung mga motorcycle units giving escorts po. Hindi po talaga pwede po yun.
Ayun, kasi kayo na rin ang napapagbintangan. I remember talking to my friends in the motorcycle community. Sabi ko, pare sino ba yung mga naka BMW na gayon na may mga vest etc. And ang dating parang highway patrol, mga highway patrol ba yan? Nako kuya, hindi highway patrol, nagpapanggap, feeling highway patrol yung mga buwisit na yan. Yung bang grupo na yan, I'm sure General, you know who I'm talking about. Yung mga naka-BMW yung mga yan, they're misrepresenting you. Maybe not intentionally. Sila ba'y nakausap nyo na at nakwelyohan nyo na?
Sir, tama po yan. No? Yung unang upo po natin, we observe po talaga na marami pong gumagamit ng mga naturuan po namin. No? Sad to say, ito po yung mga galing po sa training namin.
Ikaw pala yung nagalit dahil nagpapanggap na HPG.
Opo yun. Marami po talagang kami po nabiblame and they are using our logo, they are using our name, they are using our more or less semblance of our uniform to talagang circumvent the law. So yun po yung unang ginagawa natin. Of course, hindi po natin hinuli sila kagad. We have to talk to them. The people na gusto mag-violate, then we stop cracking them. And we have to remind po ng mga tao natin na gumagamit po ng mga kalila, authorized po yun, yung mga HPG stickers. So, meron po tayong Executive Order 296, only active PNP personnel po. Para marami po makarinig po dito. Sa EO 296 po, only active PNP personnel ang pwede po gumamit ang PNP uniform, accoutrements, and any semblance po ng PNP. Kagaya ng mga stickers na yan, hindi po sila pwede. Not even yung mga retired PNP personnel can put po yung mga logo ng HPG on their vehicles. Unless po, yan po government at amin po yan. Pero kung civilian po yan, tanggalin nyo po at hinuhuli po namin yan under EO 296. And of course, pagka ginamit nyo po yung mga blinkers, huliin po namin kayo ng usurpation of authority po.
Okay. Kayo po ba, General, meron po ba kayong unit na namamasyal dito sa mga paligid ng mga casino dito sa Manila at saka sa Pampanga? Kasi may sumbong na, ilan na yung sumbong na na-receive ko that there are foreign gamblers who are moving around with backup security units and some even using diplomatic plates. Ito yung mga, ang nagsusumbong sa atin dito, hindi mga mga kung sino-sino. Ito yung mga tao na madalas dun sa lugar. At sinasabi, sir, nagpapanggap yan. Akala mo diplomat. Hindi naman diplomat yan. Sugarol yan.
Yung nga po, sir, ito po yung nagiging problema namin dun sa mga illegal na nagpapanggap po na high patrol na nagbibigay po ng security escorts, motorcycle escorts. We have mga police po natin dito, let's say dun sa mga part ng Ross Boulevard na nagmo-monitor po, and as of now wala po kami nakikitang gumagamit po ng escort. Of course, may mga nahuhuli po kami naka-blinker. Pero yung mga escorts po ng mga ganyan, wala po. And tama po yung sabi nyo, we will be starting po dun yung crackdown po dun sa Clark kasi we don't go inside the Clark Air Base. We just go outside po kasi ang limited lang po yung high patrol to highways. So yun po yung limitations sa amin. So I hope people will understand hindi po kami pwede pumunta dun sa side streets. Meron po tayong mga local units na nagbabantay po doon. Unless we are ordered by the higher ups to implement po, then we go to mga side streets po. But as of now, we only go to side streets if we are looking for mga car vehicles po.
Okay, well, ang dami natin na pag-usapan, General Marbil. Matanong ko lang, tiga saan ba yung mga Marbil? Kasi hindi ako makapagpigil.
Sir, yung mga Marbil po is from Victoria, Tarlac po. From specifically po sa Santa Barbara, Victoria, Tarlac po.
Ayun, okay. Well, thank you very much, Brigadier General Rommel Marbil, Director, Philippine National Highway, PNP Highway Patrol. Thank you for your time and more power to you, sir. And God bless and protect all your personnel.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay. Yan po si Brigadier General Rommel Marbil. And now let's go to our blessing for this weekend, okay, from Jeremiah chapter 42, verses 10 to 11. If you will remain in this land, then I will build you up and not pull you down. I will plant you and not pluck you up, for I relent of the disaster that I did to you. Okay, next verse. Do not fear the king of Babylon, of whom you are afraid. Do not fear him, declares the Lord, for I am with you to save you and to deliver you from his hand. Yan po ang blessing ng Panginoon. It's okay. It's a Friday. Happy weekend. God willing, we will see you again next week. In the meantime, please keep it here on One News PH.